Hey guys, how's it going?
Whaley and Birch!
Back again. Dynamic Duo 2019 and 20, don't forget. We're going to start and do a little figurative language review. Notice the word is review because you should have already learned this. And I know for a fact that they learned it in elementary school. The problem is they forget it by the time they get here.
Or they were talking.
Yeah. They just don't, it's not that interesting, but it's a necessity to pass English. If you're wondering why you need it to pass English. You need it to be a good writer, period. And you can put some really good put-downs to your friends if you know how to use it properly. Okay?
Also, figurative language is going to help you in our first genre that we'll be reading, which is
poetry! I love poetry. Do you love poetry?
I love poetry.
You know what my favorite thing about poetry is?
What?
That they love it and they don't even know it.
I know.
They love it so much.
You listen to poetry every day.
You do. You probably right now have poetry in because you're thinking you don't have to watch this. You could just have your headphones in instead. You're wrong though. So, let's get going.
First, we need to define literal versus figurative language.
Okay. Literal language is you say exactly what you mean. You make no comparison and you do not exaggerate or underestimate the situation. So, I'm going to tell you, we literally had to pull a table in front of this screen and put chairs on it just to record this so there wasn't a glare from the screen. That's no exaggeration.
Nope.
I'm saying it's not an understatement for sure. And I'm saying exactly what I mean.
Yep.
I don't need to compare it to anything else.
It's literal. So then now let's talk about what figurative language is. So figurative language is you don't say exactly what you mean, okay? So you compare, you exaggerate, you understatement the situation. You use similes. You've heard this word before. Metaphors.
Hyperbole.
And other figures of speech to make your writing more exciting. So that's the point. That's why authors use it, is to make writing more exciting.
For example, right now, Miss Birch, I feel like we're maybe like 2 inches tall because of that screen.
I know.
What figurative language is that?
Like. Okay, so let's talk about these real quick. Just looking at them and seeing, is it figurative language or is it literal language?
Okay. This is just an at-home little quiz yourself. We'll read through them and give you a second or two to think what it is, and then we'll tell you what the answer is. You're not going to be tested specifically right now on this, but try to see if you know what it is as we're reading these to you, because if you do, you're on the right track, and if you don't, you might be missing a couple of things that you should have learned before.
Okay, and then you need to talk to us tomorrow and tell us.
Yes.
So number 1, Grant always turns in his homework. Is that literal or figurative?
All right, Miss Birch, tell us what it is.
Well, it would depend on Grant, wouldn't it?
Yes, but...
Because if Grant never turns in his homework, and I made the statement, Grant always turns in his homework.
Then it's figurative. But if Grant is the best student in the class, it's literal.
Mm-hmm.
So, depending on who Grant is to you, depends on the answer to that church question. All right, number 2. The water was rising in the river because of the rain. Here in Splendor, we've seen a lot of rising water. What do you think? Is it literal or figurative? What do you think, Miss Birch?
I think it's literal, because we can walk outside and literally see the river rising.
Okay, her teeth are like stars because they come out at night.
Are there stars in my mouth? Any stars in yours?
You are like a shining star to me, but I'm going to go ahead and say that that is figurative language. What figurative language is it, Miss Birch?
Well, her teeth are like.
Oh, that key word. Like, or what's the other one?
As.
If you see like or as, and it's comparing two things, it's comparing her teeth to stars, you're looking at a simile, in case you forgot. But I think we're going to go over that in a little bit. All right, number 4.
When she sings, her voice is like velvet. Ooh.
She must have a good voice.
Mm-hmm.
Soft and steady. Okay. So here again we have her voice being compared to velvet using that special word like. So that should tell you it's what kind of language?
Figurative.
And it's a simile. All right, number 5. Half of the class did not complete the assignment. Whew.
That's one of our pet peeves.
All right, time's up. What do you think it is, Miss Birch?
I think it's literal.
Absolutely. I've had this happen before. It's an ugly day afterwards. Okay, number 6. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. I have said that.
So have I.
A lot of times. Okay. What is it, Miss Birch?
Figurative. You could not literally eat an entire horse, no matter how hungry you are.
That's right. You couldn't. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
And it'd be gross.
Mhm.
And also, you'd probably be in trouble.
Mhm.
Okay, number 7. Mike was so angry that steam was coming out of his ears.
This reminds me of those cartoons.
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and, spill the beans. What do they say now? Spill the tea? We're gonna spill the tea. This is definitely figurative. No one is that angry. It's not a literal thing. So it's figurative language. But notice, they're using this language to explain and to give you a visual image of how mad someone is. If they had just said Mike was angry, y'all would have been like, well, all right. Well, if he's got steam coming out of his ears, someone ticked him off. That's done.
Mm-hmm. So the zebras cried when the wise old elephant died. Ooh, this is a tricky.
I know, that's a poem in itself. First
Yes.
off.
Tricky, tricky. What do you think? Literal or figurative?
What do you think?
I think figurative because zebras cried, right? When the wise old elephant died.
So somebody might argue that zebras can cry. I don't know any zebras, do you?
I
So
don't.
maybe they can. But what I do know is that we don't know specifically whether an elephant is wise or not. Because it hasn't told us. We can't talk to it. We might say it's wise, but how do we really know? It could be the dumbest one in the herd. So this is figurative language. Got it? Now, I've
Last
told
one.
you a million times to clean up your room.
How many of your moms have said that to you?
Yes. And have they really told you a million?
Mm.
Probably not. At my house, maybe we're getting close, but probably not. So this is figurative language. Now, we're going to go through some other things. I hope you did well on this little pre-information quiz. Okay.
And I thought that was just a figure of speech. It was so cold I froze my butt off.
Yes, it is. It is figurative speech. Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about the different types because you need to know these, guys. I know in my class that I'm going to, at some point, expect you to be able to identify these. You're going to have to be able to identify them before you come back to class tomorrow. We'll tell you about that in a minute. But this is stuff you need to know. You do see it on things. You do see it on the STAR. You do see it on on PSAT sometimes, or SAT. You have to know it. So let's just get it done now.
Okay, so figurative language, we just took the 7 types. 7 types.
Notice the what is it called again?
Acronym.
Yeah, the acronym.
The acronym shampoo. So we have simile, hyperbole, alliteration, metaphor, personification, onomatopoeia, I can never spell this one to save my life, so any of you help me, and oxymoron. Let's go over them one by one.
Okay, simile. We've already addressed this one because it's the most commonly remembered and easiest one to learn. Comparing to unlike things using the words like or as. Anytime you see these words and we're asking you a question about figurative speech, make sure you know if they're comparing two things. Sometimes we'll try to trick you and we'll just throw the word like in a sentence and people automatically go, oh, it's a simile. They have to be comparing two things. So, her eyes were like stars. Yes, okay? Susan is as gentle as a kitten. I doubt it. Susan's crazy. But yes, those are examples. Again, Susan.
Hyperbole.
You can't see it very good, but it's right up there. Hyperbole. Y'all use this every day.
Yes, it's an exaggeration. So dramatic, no one could believe it. This bag weighs a ton. Can you actually pick up a ton?
No.
No. I've told you a million times to clean up your room. Has your mother told you a million times?
No. And y'all come into our class, you'll say, Miss Burge, Miss Whaley, do you have any food? I'm starving, I haven't eaten in 100 years. That's not even true. You haven't even been alive that long. That would be hyperbole. You use this very frequently and you just don't know it. So make sure you know this one. Alliteration.
This is a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
So the repeating of the same letter or sound, especially consonants, including tongue twisters. So Miss Warren was worried when Wendy was waiting. So what is the repetitive sound? The W! What?
Rubber, baby, buggy, bumpers. The repetitive sound is where you find the B. Baby, buggy, bumpers. That's alliteration. And then lastly,
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
that's definitely the P.
Yes.
You hear it all the
Now,
time.
I want to make a little side note for you on this. We are giving you exaggerated, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are exaggerated examples. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 7 W's in a row.
You won't see that very often, but you will see the 3 in a row
Or 2.
frequently. Yeah, 2 or 3. You will see it, and it brings something to the writing. We'll explain that a little more in depth when we start, breaking down writing. But It's definitely, if you hear the repetitive sounds, that's your alliteration. I always remember alliteration whenever I was in school because it starts with two L's, and for some reason the two L's reminded me that two letters have to be the same or sound similar.
Alliteration in poetry. Here's just one more example.
A flea and a fly in a flue were imprisoned, so what could they do? Said the fly, let us flee. Let us fly, said the flea. So they flew through the flaw in the flue.
So do you
Holy
see how
moly.
the alliteration isn't necessarily side by side, but we know that it keeps repeating
This sound.
the flup, flup,
Oh
flup.
my gosh, that was a tongue twister for sure.
Okay, metaphors.
Okay, metaphors, this is the one in my class, I don't know about you, but kids get them so confused between metaphors and similes because in both you're comparing two things. So when you're comparing them, you're doing it without using like or as, okay? Calling one thing another, saying one thing is something else, okay?
So he's a lion when he fights.
No, he's not, he can't be a lion.
He can't be a lion. But you're saying he is a lion.
He's
Not
aggressive,
like a
yeah.
lion,
He
not
is
as a lion. He is the lion. That makes it a metaphor.
Her eyes were sparkling emeralds. Well, if that's true, she's worth a lot of money. Let's take them. So you can see how her eyes cannot be sparkling emeralds, but they're saying they are, and they're not saying they're like them. They are them.
Mhm. My love is a red, red rose.
I always think this one's weird. Think about it. If it's a red, red rose, it's wilting. That's uncomfortable for everyone. One thing you can relate to that you guys do right now, and I see it a lot on Twitter and on Instagram, you'll see a hot girl or a hot guy and you'll say, man, she's fire, or he's fire. You're actually using a metaphor. You are comparing her to fire without using like or as, because she's not really fire, because if she was, she'd be burning and it'd be a real uncomfortable situation. Okay? Personification.
Ooh, this is one of my favorites.
Take it over.
Giving human characteristics to things that are not human. So the angry floodwaters slapped the house. Can water be angry? No, has no feelings. Can it slap?
No.
No. It can go against something, but it's not intentionally.
And that's something that's hard to distinguish sometimes when we are looking at personification, because some people might say, yeah, water can slap. I've heard it slapping my house, but it has no emotions that it can intentionally slap. It has no person behind the actual movement of it. It's not doing it on purpose. Notice personification, the word person is in it, because you're giving human characteristics to something that can't have those. The last one.
The sun smiled down on us. That sounds pretty.
But it can't smile on us.
It cannot. No. Okay.
Onomatopoeia.
Oh, these are the good ones. Sounds.
Yes. Y'all are really good at using these as well. You know, you do like the sound, whatever that is. I don't even know how to do that on here. But anytime you give a sound, a hiss, a click, a buzz, a tweet, a pow, you're using onomatopoeia. So be aware that that is actually a way to enhance your writing.
Last one.
Oxymoron.
Words or phrases in which contradictory or opposite terms are used together. So we have act naturally. But if you're acting and you're being natural,
Not natural.
no.
We have baby grand. How can it be grand if it's a baby?
Jumbo shrimp.
I know, that always confuses me. Climb down. You can climb up, but how do you
Climb
back down?
Back down.
And then an adult child. Like you guys. It's not a big deal, you are one, but that's a good example of it.
Okay, so now we're going to take a minute to go over these, and you're going to identify just with us as we talk about them if it is what type of, give me the word, figurative language it is. There we go. Okay, so number one.
The streetcars are like frosted cakes covered with snowflakes. You see a key word in there and a comparison? If you did, you would have known this is a simile. I hope you got it right, guys. Go ahead.
Number two, the west wind dances down the road.
I think we just covered that. Can wind dance?
No.
No, it can't. So that's what? Personification, guys.
Good job.
Number three, a train is a dragon that roars through the dark.
Ooh. What do you think it is?
Well, I know it's a comparison between a train and a dragon, but I don't see like or as, so that makes it a what?
Metaphor!
Good job. I hope you got it. Number 4.
The band played to a small crowd at the concert. You know this one? Are there opposite? 2 words that are opposites in here? Small crowd. A crowd of people isn't small, is it? It's a big group of people.
That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm good at this. You'd think I had a degree. All right, number 5. She's as tiny as a mouse. I see a comparison in there.
And there's some key words.
As, oh, there's another as, and it's comparing her to a tiny mouse. Ah, that's a simile, another simile. Number 6. Her blonde hair shined like the sun.
Ooh.
What
Another
is it?
key word in there. Are we comparing 2 things?
Yes, her hair to the sun, and there's that word like, so it's another simile. Hope we didn't trip you up on that one.
Susan suddenly stretched slowly.
This is your favorite one.
Yes, it is.
I hope you got it. Remember that 2L word.
Alliteration!
Good job, guys. So, this is the last slide?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure, guys. So, for tomorrow, what we would like y'all to do, and y'all can do it tonight, but we're going to check some of them tomorrow.
Let's bring this closer.
Yeah, there we are. Okay, we would like y'all to get onto some source of social media. It can be Twitter, it can be Facebook, it can be anything, Instagram, whatever you want, and find 3 examples on social media of some kind of figurative language that you learned today. You need to post it into our Google Classroom, and it will be for a grade, so make sure you get it done. If you have any questions, feel free to email us and ask us. Talk to you guys later. Mwah.